my skin so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Welcome to Life Gorgeous, Craigers. This is where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. And there he is, my old friend Chris Hine from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, author of the book ANT, the very popular book ANT. A lot to talk about. Chris, how many people will start with this question? Should we start the podcast with Carole King or Rudy Gobert?
I think we should start with Carole King. I think that's what people are tuning in for. It is her 84th birthday today as we are recording this. The legend, the GOAT songwriter. You know, even though I'm in Bob Dylan's birthplace, I think she is the GOAT songwriter. That is my girl.
I thought you were Mariah was number one. Mariah Carey.
They're tied. Okay. It's Mariah and Carole. We give Carole the songwriting edge. We give Mariah the whole package edge, and they're tied in my book.
So yes. Tapestry was the great album, one of the greatest. It's a masterpiece. I do this sometimes, and maybe it's not a good thing, but I remembered as a kid, there was an album that we thought was the greatest. And I told Dave Grohl this when I interviewed him. And he goes, of course, it's one of the greatest. And I looked it up, AI, which is considered better. And that might be rude for me to compare Tapestry to Stevie Wonder songs in the key of life.
Sure. Yes. Listen, it's all a matter of personal preference. You can't go wrong with either album. Both classics. I'm not going to diminish Stevie Wonder and songs in the key of life, which I love and listen to and study the songs from and everything. But it's just personal. Tapestry. I heard that it was life-changing for me at 15 years old. And the songs, It's Too Late, So Far Away, Will You Love Me Tomorrow, You've Got a Friend. It's amazing that one album can hold so many classic songs, and it was like an album. It's not a greatest hits album. It's an album that somebody made in studio sessions.
I'm trying to think. So Far Away might be my favorite of that album. I'm not sure. It's interesting when it comes to music, and we're gonna talk music. I have a little list of questions for you, but let's continue before we get to our wolves. It's interesting how people get opinionated and upset when they talk music.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to a friend of mine who's a neighbor, nice guy, who's also opinionated. He knows a lot we talk a lot about movies we watch, but I mentioned to him, and it might be the tone I had or whatever. And I just said, well, you know, Prince, this was like maybe 7 or 8 years ago. Well, you know, it was right before the Super Bowl, 7 or 8 years ago. We're in the car. That also throws people off, you know, the room driver. Well, you know, Prince is the greatest halftime show of all time. Why? I'll go beyond that. He's the most talented musician of all, one of the most talented. Can you name someone more talented? You know, and this began an argument. So he wasn't a Prince fan. He couldn't relate to Prince. And I said, well, songwriting, instrument playing, he plays a bunch of instruments, singing, dancing, which eliminates Stevie Wonder because he did finally 3 days later say, what about Stevie Wonder? I said, I love Stevie Wonder. He's not the showman that Prince is because he doesn't dance. But do you ever get in an argument with people about Prince?
And not about Prince, really. I think universally people love Prince, especially living here in Minneapolis. You're never going to hear anybody diminish Prince. I guess in my circles, because I'm, you know, millennial, and Prince was prominent, you know, kind of before I was born and during I was born. So in my friend groups and things like that, we're talking more about artists that were peaking in the 90s and the 2000s, and that's kind of that nostalgia, right? You know, so not so much in my friend groups are we having arguments about Prince. We're having arguments, and as a gay man, you always are arguing about your favorite divas. That's probably more, you know, who's better, Mariah or Celine or you know, Christina, and you know, I always compare diva fandom in the gay world to sports fandom, because you're pulling up like chart stats, like so many. Mariah has 19 number one hits, you know, Whitney has 11, you know, you're comparing the sales platinum, double platinum, diamond albums. How many does Whitney have? How many does Mariah have? How many does Lady Gaga have?
Right.
Taylor Swift. It's very similar to like, well, Michael Jordan has 6 rings and LeBron has 4. Right. And there's a lot of similarities, more similarities than you think in stan culture across the board like that.
I think I might stay on this for a little while here because I wanted to ask you. So you were mentioning names of the divas. When you guys are arguing, how often does it come up that you talk about who has the best voice, and secondarily, who is writing their songs as opposed to, because my friend who's a malcontent on the East Coast would always criticize Sinatra. He didn't write his songs, and he didn't realize back then they had these wonderful songwriters. That's just how it was done. So let me go back to, of the divas you mentioned, Celine Dion, Mariah, Christina, and maybe I'm missing somebody. Is Barbra Streisand a diva, or is she in a different category?
Kind of a different category, I think. More traditional Broadway, but she obviously had a pop career as well. But
right
in our circles, not as brought up as much.
So Streisand has the best voice, right? Is that
I'm gonna say Mariah has the best voice. I mean, I'm gonna,
I'll
be out on that limb all day.
do any of the divas write their music?
Mariah does. Mariah does. Mariah, of her 19 #1 hits, has written or co-written 18 of them, including All I Want for Christmas Is You.
We'll Belong Together is my favorite. Did she write that or co-write that?
She did co-write it. She co-writes a lot of her songs with either the producer that ends up making the track or the beat with her, or like a piano player, like for Hero, for instance.
Right.
She was working with her longtime collaborator, Walter Afanasieff. And so he would sit down at the piano and they would just kind of collaborate together on ideas for some of her songs in the 90s. And that's how a lot of her ballads were made. And she writes the lyrics to pretty much all of her songs as well.
I'm gonna
that's little known about Mariah, when people don't give her credit for being a very good songwriter.
I'm just gonna name some female singers. Just tell me your opinion. What do you think of Madonna?
I like Madonna. On a public forum, I'm not going to probably say a bad word, but her and Mariah used to get into it through the press back in the day. There was a quote, I think, of Mariah's from the 90s. Madonna had said something about like, I feel sad for Mariah Carey or something like that. Like, I feel bad for her or something. And Mariah responded back, well, I don't know about Madonna, but I used to listen to her when she was popular in the 80s or something like that. But Madonna, listen, I have a bunch of Madonna songs on my phone. I'll Remember and Take a Bow and The Power of Goodbye, Frozen. The Ray of Light album is a fantastic album by Madonna. So props to Madonna for sure.
She came on the scene when we were in college, my buddies and I, the basketball team, and Holiday, which is still one of my favorites. I like dance music. We didn't know she was a white girl when we first heard it. And I think the general thing is not a great voice. She doesn't have a great voice, but she can obviously dance, and she's a show person,
right?
As opposed to a showman, but she's really talented. I like her. Kylie Minogue.
Big fan, Kylie Minogue. Obviously, the LGBTQ community loves Kylie Minogue.
Right.
It was great to see Padam Padam kind of become the club anthem of a couple of summers ago, and she won a Grammy for that, actually.
Right.
And so she's just been a mainstay for decades in the gay world, and you're not going to find anybody that's going to speak ill of Kylie Minogue for sure.
So I've told this story before, but it's a guilty pleasure because I like dance music. I was doing the late night show, and I went home, and I had DirecTV at the time, and they had a free Kylie concert. And there was a song, Love at First Sight, and she was dancing, and I go, this is a fun song. And there was a guy at work who was, very opinionated, and he goes, I that's terrible. That's embarrassing that you like that. Now, I agree with you on Miles Davis and stuff, but not with, I said, it's guilty pleasure. I don't relate to Britney Spears. I don't care about Britney Spears. Right. I like Kylie Minogue, and I don't think she has a good voice, in my opinion, but it's just entertaining. It's fluff. It's fun. It's dance music. she's not considered a major talent. She's just popular and fun, right?
Right, exactly. And it's there's a lane for that. There's a space for that. There's a space for fun pop dance music that makes you feel good. Just like there's a space for serious singer songwriter stuff. There's a space for grunge. There's a space for R&B.
Yes.
There's a space for this in the music lexicon. And I think what I've learned as I've gotten older is, I used to be kind of snobbish about my music tastes, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, hey, listen, if you like it and enjoy it, who am I to say something's bad, right? Life's too short. Listen to what you like, and don't crap on other people's musical tastes or things that make them happy. That's what I've learned. Even if it's an artist that I don't care for, so what? If it makes you happy, go for it.
I tend to like songs more than artists. So there's some one-hit wonders. What was that song by Sophie B. Hawkins? Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover.
She had two. She's a two-hit wonder. Sophie B. Hawkins. There was Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover, and like as I Lay Me Down to Sleep.
Okay.
This I Pray That You Will Hold Me Dear. You remember that song? She had a second hit as well. Yes.
Vaguely.
Two-hit wonder Sophie B. Hawkins. Yes.
There was also this woman that was on the show, and it was a powerful song. And it was back in LA. I got to get out of this town. And then she's like, and I came back to LA. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm not giving you very many hints.
I don't know. This one's stumping.
Let me just think.
And usually I'm pretty good.
Man, I got to get back to LA. It was pretty painful. She had to get out of this town. And then I'll send it to you later. I can't remember who it was, but it was a rough one. Then you had I'm just remembering songs now. Paula Cole.
Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? Paula Cole. Yes.
I like that song.
Yep. And then I Don't Want to Wait, which became the theme song to what was the WB show?
Don't ask me.
Dawson's Creek or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
Another two-hit wonder, Paula Cole. But Where Have All the Cowboys Gone is a banger.
I love that song. I like Shirley Manson from Garbage. I liked her voice on Special.
Yeah,
I think it was the song. Amy Mann was on the show a lot. She did. She was from Till Tuesday. She did. What was it? Was it Voices Carry?
Yep.
Is that before your time, young man?
I think was that early 90s? Was that I don't know, when was that?
Yeah, probably.
Not as familiar with Amy Mann's career, to be honest with you, but yeah.
Here's the one I'm really proud of. So I'm living in San Francisco, right out of college, the city, capital T, capital C, and hanging out with my brother. He's got a Lindrum. He's writing music. He's a software engineer. He's having fun, and we're listening to a lot of British stuff. We're listening to a lot of Psych Furs. We're listening to New Order, Howard Jones, the Smiths.
Yep.
And then Kate Bush comes along with Running Up That Hill. And I love that song. And then they had a resurgence a few years ago with some television show I never saw.
Stranger Things. Yep. I got her into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think, because she was kind of perennially on the ballot of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and never quite seemed to get enough support. And then that drops and that song becomes a huge hit again, thanks to Stranger Things. Then all of a sudden she's getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So, I think that's a big thing for her and her career that happened. And, nice to see her get that recognition, because definitely one of the underappreciated talents, I think, of that time.
Wrote down a few more names. Janet Jackson.
Oh, love Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Just absolutely love Janet Jackson. Both 80s Janet and 90s Janet, 2000s Janet. I'm a big fan, and a big fan, to bring this back to the Timberwolves, of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and they're used to be Timberwolves season ticket holders. And, but their production career and their credits is phenomenal. And obviously they worked with Janet basically throughout her whole career. You can't get any better than those guys.
I know those guys. I know Jimmy pretty well. And I remember years ago, I said, do you have a favorite Janet song? Because I do. And he goes, what's yours? I said, That's the Way Love Goes. He says, that's my favorite.
Yeah. It doesn't get any smoother than That's the Way Love Goes, right? Like, that is such a good groove. That's such a great song. And yeah, those guys, they did such a good job of just melding with the times,
Yeah.
melding her sound with the times, and not every producer can do that.
Well,
And
I tell you how talented Jimmy Jam is, and Flight Time, Terry Lewis. They did an album with the Human League, and they did "I'm Only Human," which is it's a very good song, and they lifted up the Human League, in my opinion, with that album. Old school. You ever heard of a singer named Sarah Vaughan?
I have heard of Sarah Vaughan. Not too familiar with the discography, though. You can tell.
That's
me.
okay. That's okay. Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday. See, now you're going more into jazz and standards. That ain't my wheelhouse.
I know.
I've certainly heard of Billie Holiday, though. Right.
Are there any singers? We can go with the divas that you think are overrated, that you're not a fan of. Is that too controversial for you?
Oh man, on a podcast. Well, I think, as yeah, it might be too controversial for me. I might have to. That's fine. That. But I will say this. Actually, I have a good one. I have a good one for you. That'll also. When I was growing up, I despised Celine Dion. Okay, and it was for very irrational reasons. Okay, mostly because she was taking up chart positions that I thought should have gone to Mariah at the time. And she was winning Grammys that I thought should have gone to Mariah at the time. Right. So I had an irrational hatred for Celine Dion. As I got older and as we got a little more time and distance from that particular time, I have grown to love Celine Dion and love her voice and discography. So that was where I went from really disliking somebody for, again, those reasons that we like chart competition and Grammy awards and all that stuff. Right. But then as time passed, I'm like, you know what? I actually liked all these songs. I was just denying it to myself.
That's good. We call that evolving.
We do. We grow as people. We grow and evolve as people.
Before we get to the great Rudy Gobert, one more name, Cher.
I mean, I listen to all eras of Cher. Like she's got song. If I pull up my phone, I give, you can see Sonny and Cher songs are on there. You see Cher songs are on there. Just what a career just to span and be relevant across so many different decades and in so many different areas. Really, I mean, a career that is probably going to be unrivaled and unparalleled in entertainment history.
Right. Okay, good. If I think of any other songs from one hit wonders, Tina Marie.
Oh,
I can't remember the song she used to sing. I like Fire and Desire with Rick James, and I think it was Tina Marie. Okay, here we go. How many years have you covered the Timberwolves?
This is my 8th year. Began with Jimmy Butler blowing up training camp practice.
That was
my first week on the job.
The Wolves are now, it's in a weird place, a weird funk before the All-Star break. Is this a serious one or is this just a hiccup?
I think I wouldn't even classify it as either, to be honest with you. Just observing this team, I think this is just who they are. Yeah. They're a moody, emotional team that when they get moody and emotional, you can see it plainly on the court and they feel it, they know it. And I think the rest of the season now is, what do you do about it?
Right.
Can you harness good energy among this group to make a run the last third of the season here and into the playoffs? Or are you going to let kind of these moments where bad body language or low energy, low effort seeps in to a playoff series and ultimately dooms you? I think that's the challenge for this team the rest of the year.
So let me just tell the young people who are listening and watching what's going on with my beloved Timberwolves. We know that Rudy Gobert is a controversial figure. We're recording this on Monday before their game against Atlanta. They lost yesterday to the Clippers. Rudy, of course, made a spin move and banged it off the board. Not a polished offensive player. He's a Frenchman. He likes crystals. He's a different kind of guy. They lost a game to a bad team, the Pelicans, up 18. They lost. And Rudy said in the interview, some guys aren't playing hard. He was referring to, you can correct me on this, Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards, and someone's got to hold them accountable. He's referring to Chris Finch. Chris Finch then said, I wish Rudy would have kept that in-house. We are accountable. I'm not going to substitute guys in and out like crazy. I'm paraphrasing. Does that sound, are people mad at Rudy? Is Finchy mad at Rudy?
I don't think so. To your latter question, I think that this team does a good job of telling truths to each other and saying what's on their mind, and then trying to move on and not take things personally. So I think it was brought up at practice on Saturday and addressed, and you move on. Yes.
When you say it's brought up at practice, you're not there for that, correct?
Not there for that. I'm just going by what we've heard and what was said publicly as well. So yeah, I'm not there to watch practice and like see everything that's said. We are let in for the last like 5 minutes, 10 minutes of practice to see the guys just like putting up shots at the end of practice.
Okay.
And then and then a couple guys will come over and do media off to the side.
Right.
That's how it works. Yeah.
But Rudy was referring to Julius Randle and Ant, correct?
That he didn't say so, but yes, I think you could easily see in his comments, especially the comment where he says it doesn't matter if you score 50 points in a given night, you got to try hard on defense. That's pretty.
That's not Jalen Clark.
That's not Jalen.
He's not scoring 50.
No, it's not. It's not Jaden either,
right?
Or Dante. It's Ant and Julius. So,
how does Julius get along with Rudy?
It seems to be a good relationship. I mean, at least from what I've talked to them each about. I remember talking to Julius earlier in the year, and they'll grab a meal together every now and then, or he'll head over Rudy's house, stuff like that. I've heard them talk about that in the past. Yeah.
So it's not the young Chris Hine hatred towards Celine Dion.
No, it's not.
Rage.
No, it's not. The only thing in common there is Rudy and Celine both speak French. That's about it. Yeah.
Right. So how's Finchy handling it all?
It's interesting, and I think he's taken the approach of he's always even keel, right? And you see a loss like the Clippers game on Sunday, and earlier in the season when they were in Atlanta and lost by 30 or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And you expect Finch, who can be a fiery guy and is very competitive, you expect him in those situations to come out and maybe blast the team, right? He takes the opposite approach in these moments. He tries to take a more positive spin, and he says the team is not in a very good spirit right now. We need to get our spirit back. It's more than X's and O's at this point, right? And sometimes when they win, he'll say, we need to do this better. We need to do that better. So he tends to take that kind of that even keel, like I'm going to zig when you think I'm going to zag approach to some of his comments. So right now he's back in that place where he's just trying to get this team to be in a good mood again.
Right.
And that's where he's at.
A couple opinions from young Craigers who's watched the game for a long time. Chuck Daly said years ago, at some point, the players get tired of hearing the same voice. I think coaches have to pick their spot. Finchy, I've heard about the film sessions where he goes hard down in Phoenix and he gets tossed last year. And this year he went hard in the film session and he gets tossed against OKC. You can't do that all the time. You can't go fire and brimstone all the time. You got to pick your spots. I have an opinion on what the problem is. Okay. You don't have to agree with me. I have an opinion. And I put pressure a couple of years ago when I said, well, we're going to make the playoffs. I said, who's the pressure on? Well, he's asked to do a lot, but it's Anthony Edwards, the best player. He's got to rise up, and he does rise up in the playoffs, and he plays fantastic. If there's no effort, what does Michael Jordan do? He goes, he chews out the teammates. What does Magic Johnson do? He holds these guys accountable. He does. Anthony Edwards doesn't have that in his personality. Maybe he will one day. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. He's not going to say, come on, Julius Randle, get your ass back. I blame the players. The coaches can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? Yes. People talk about Mike Malone. That's a coach. Well, he had problems in Denver, by the way. Not everyone got along with him. It's just the way it is. So I'm saying, unfortunately, Anthony Edwards has to do everything, and it's on him to be more like Jordan or Magic or someone. Do you agree or disagree? Am I putting you in a tough spot?
I think he has to trend in that direction a little bit. And and some of it is introspective on him to bring it as well, because he's admitted as much, like after they beat the Thunder, that he doesn't always bring it on the defensive end of the floor. He flat out came out and said it, right? And
yes,
we asked him, like, why is that hard? And it's like, well, I guess I got to lean on my teammates a little more on offense. So he's self-aware of what the issues are. And, step one in fixing a problem is admitting there is one, right?
Right.
So, but now how do you fix that? And how do you bring that on a nightly basis? Can you bring it on a nightly basis? And when it comes to holding others accountable, it's hard to do that if you yourself have admitted that you don't do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a tough spot for Ant, because one thing Ant, I think, has always been is authentic.
Yeah.
And he can be critical of teammates, and he's mostly uplifting, but he can be critical at times from what I've heard. But you're right. He doesn't have that sort of fire and brimstone moment in him, perhaps at this point in his career, as he's still learning to embrace being a leader at 24 years old.
Yeah. And he, I think our friend Dane Moore says, I think he said that this was maybe Ant's one of his worst defensive years since his rookie season, or something to that effect. But he is a great defensive player. My opinion is you better have a good offense, because it's hard to play great defense 82 games a year. It's so much effort. And it's good that you have a good defense. I mean, that game against OKC, the announcers were like, okay, they're on the border. Dante's on the border of fouling every time. He's up in their guy's body on the perimeter. They're pressuring these guys on the dribble, which is what OKC does. And they were letting them play so they can rise to the occasion. But the other thing is, because it's effort, there's this thing where my brother didn't always watch games, because he was one of these guys that didn't have a TV and blah, blah, and all this stuff. He was a software engineer. And I was telling him, he had seen Kobe play. I go, you got to see this guy, D Wade. You got to see him. I know he's not as good as Kobe, but I like him way more. And he's I said, he's economical. He'll just drive. He'll split the double team, turn it over sometimes, and go to the rim. And my brother saw me, goes, oh yeah, because Kobe will dance on the perimeter. Well, Ant expends energy dancing on the perimeter, yo-yoing and trying to get a step and a step back. And maybe I'm wrong, but then he's going to go back on defense and rest a little bit. It'd be cool if it was more economical. And I do like when he's off the ball and he just does spot up shooting. So you need a point guard he need a point guard for that.
I noticed one sequence in the Clippers game. He took it to the basket, and I don't know if it was the moment where he had the big dunk or it was another layup or something like that. But he took it to the basket, and then he picked up the guy taking the ball out of bounds or receiving the pass, and he picked him up full court and guarded all the way down the floor. And I was watching that sequence just to see, like, how is he does he have hands on his knees afterwards? Like, how does a sequence like that drain you of your energy? Because that's essentially what he has to do in some instances. Is, okay, you're going to take the ball to the hole, you're going to finish, and now you're going to pick up the point guard going down full court, guarding 94 feet. So, like you said, doing that on a nightly basis can be tricky, and he's admitted as much. But Chris Finch doesn't necessarily buy the notion that you expend energy on one end of the floor and not the other.
Correct.
So this is where Ant is at right now. And you see in the playoffs, there's so much better of a team when he guards. The one victory they had against Oklahoma City last year was his best game of the postseason.
Yeah.
But where can that be? Can that be every night in a playoff run?
Right. Will Mike Conley help when he comes back?
We'll see. I think this is going to be maybe a blessing in disguise for Mike, who was banged up a little bit, and I think playing through some stuff. And Mike is a very prideful guy. He doesn't want to sit out. And so this is maybe a little forced rest period for him as he waits to come back in. So we'll see what he has, and we'll see if he's got a little bit for a playoff push. I thought personally that he should have been resting, or the team should have been resting him on back-to-backs all season.
Right.
Like, that was a natural, I thought, way for him to rest and for them to give
Right.
Rob Dillingham some run, and it never worked out like
Right.
that. I was surprised that wasn't the approach the team took this year. But like I said, Mike always wants to compete and is a very prideful guy, and hopefully he has something left in the tank for April.
Side note, I do predict Rob Dillingham will have a 20-point game at some point with the Bulls this season. He'll have a 20-point game. I like Rob. It didn't work out. I like him. What I was saying with Mike Conley, and I'm going to ask you with Joe Ingles, can those guys help with their voices with the team?
Yes.
Would Joe Ingles ever say anything to Ant or Julius? Hey guys, your energy is not there.
We have heard Julius say that Joe can be that guy in his ear where he needs to pick up the energy or pick up his mood. He definitely is that guy for Julius. Not sure about Ant, but during the playoff run last year, Julius referenced that multiple times, that Joe can be kind of a guy that calms him down or brings him back into the game.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing. And I think for Ant, Mike can be that guy and has been that guy over the years, especially, early in Mike's tenure. One of the scenes in the book is, Ant sitting next to Mike at film sessions, and Mike will see Ant shaking his leg, like as Mike said, he's got to go to the bathroom or something like that. But that's when Finchy is getting on him during the film sessions. And it's at those moments that Mike knows he's got to get in Ant's ear a little bit and say, hey, calm down, take in the info, take it in, learn from it, and move on, right? You need to hear this. So that's the kind of guy Mike Conley can be for Ant in kind of more heated emotional moments.
He references the book. The book is Ant by Chris Hine. Came out last year. How's it going? Still going strong. That's my understanding. The young people like it.
The people like it. Some people like it. That's what I hear. That's the rumor. It's good. People are talking it up.
Pressure on our newly acquired guard, Ayo Dosunmu, to be a savior. He's not a savior, but man, I like his game. What are your thoughts on Ayo Dosunmu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, I think he is tailor-made to fill the role that Nickeil Alexander-Walker left behind, and even Chris Finch and Tim Connolly have admitted as much in their comments about him, as they were missing what Nickeil brought when he left: energy, defense, little bit of dribbling and handling, good three-point range. So Ayo brings that to the table, and they need it. But listen, he's not going to fix all these issues by himself. He's going to be an injection of energy, and he's going to be, I think, a player that fans, much like with Nickeil, are going to get behind, because fans love the guy who gets on the floor for diving for the loose balls and defends well. I think you'll see the fans grab onto him pretty quickly. But ultimately, it's on the leaders of this team to fix the issues and bring it every night.
Big game tonight. That's enough on the Wolves. We're going to wrap it up here. A couple questions. How's the Frasier reboot? I don't watch it. I hope you forgive me.
It was okay. I mean, I was texting you a little bit about it. It's obviously not up to this. It was not up to the standard of the original. It had its moments.
Sure.
It would, and honestly, the nostalgia of just seeing Kelsey Grammer playing Frasier Crane on my screen was the reason I kept tuning in. Perry Gilpin showed up as Roz as well and became kind of a member of the cast, and others from the original. No David Hyde Pierce, no Jane Leaves,
no Daphne, no Jane Leaves.
Right. BB Newirth showed up for an episode, and that was probably my favorite episode of The Batch.
Right.
Was the one where she came back. It was. I don't rewatch it. I'll put it that way.
There's a show called the series The Night Manager, which I like, with Hugh Laurie and Tom Hiddleston. The first season, 6 parts, was absolutely amazing. They have a second season, which I just watched. The first season was based on the book by John le Carre, The Night Manager. So the second season is just them writing stuff. So I had I had the bar set low for my expectations, and I also had heard they said that Hugh Laurie would not be in it, which he's the best part. But in fact, they surprised us, and he was still alive in episode 3. And Hugh Laurie, might be his best work, better than House, because he gets to use his British accent.
I have not seen that. I'm going to have to catch up on that. Loved him in House. Loved him in Veep too, by the way. I don't know.
I did not see that.
If you caught him in Veep.
I did not.
Good chemistry there with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Veep. I think. Maybe
What
like
shows do you watch?
I haven't watched a ton of late. I just finished Pluribus.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen
Vince
it.
Gilligan, Rhea Seehorn.
Yeah.
To me, that's going to be. It feels like a standard Vince Gilligan show where it maybe starts out a little slower than people expect, but the seeds are there for it to ramp up as later seasons come on, which is very much how Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul proceeded. And I'm watching Palm Royale right now. Kristen Wiig, Allison Janney, Carol Burnett, catching up on that right now.
I've heard of that. Is that good?
It's getting there for me. It's very campy. Laura Dern also in it as well. Very campy. And I think halfway through season 1, starting to find a rhythm. And I'm glad that Carol Burnett is finally coming out of the coma that they had her in for the first 5 or 6 episodes of the show. It's like, I'm thinking to myself, you signed up Carol Burnett to be in your show, and you put her in a coma where she does nothing for the first 4 or 5 episodes. Like, wake her up,
right.
Get her to do something. So finally she's coming out of it.
For those of you saying, Craig, why is your head down? What are you doing? I was trying to find that song. And I can't get back to LA early 2000 because they're giving me Ludacris, which is not the song I'm talking about, but I'll find it and I'll send it to you. I want to see if you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
All right, brother. That's it. Good luck tonight. Try to be nice to them. Hopefully they win the game against the Atlanta Hawks and Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Much easier to write about when they win. Going into those locker rooms after some of these losses is not as fun.
Did they ever snap? Did they ever snap at you?
Not really. Not really.
What's a partial not really snap? What do they say?
They don't snap at your questions. And I think, on some level, they all recognize that you have to ask these kind of questions. And I think you get enough cred or built enough of a relationship with some of these guys that, they know you're not like out to get them, quote unquote. Right. So they don't snap. They don't really snap. It's a good group. It's a professional group in that sense, I will say. And sometimes guys want to talk after losses, or they have something to say, like Rudy did the other night.
Right.
So you never know when they might actually want to talk in those situations as well.
Are you aware of there's a running joke with John Krasinski and Johnny Athletic. Do you know about this or not?
I don't know this running joke. What is it? John hasn't told me.
He texted me during the Pelicans game. The one word. So it started, and I do disagree with John. Sometimes I told him when I met him, I said, if I meet Barkley, which I did, I met Charles Barkley at the Four Seasons years ago. I said, why did you make Dr. J play the 2 guard? Because you didn't want to play power forward when you were with the Sixers, because Doc had to move to 2 guard at the end because Barkley didn't want to play power forward, and he laughed, whatever. And I said, if I meet John, because this was a few years ago, I said, he was too compassionate towards Blair Walsh when he missed the field goal against Seattle in the playoffs. And he thought Mike Zimmer was too hard on him. And I said, no, I wanted Mike Zimmer to cut his ass in the locker room for missing that. So we disagreed on that. And we disagreed on this. So this is at Milwaukee last year. Big lead. Bucks go into a zone, collapse.
Remember it well. Yep.
Do you know what John asked Finchie?
Oh, shoot. I was there and I forget. Did he ask him?
It's a word he used. And now that's become our running joke.
Oh, and didn't Finch have a interesting answer to it?
Yeah, he completely disagreed. He said no.
Collapsed?
Microcosm. Is this a microcosm?
Microcosm. Gotcha.
And he goes, "This is not a microcosm." No, we had a bad fourth quarter against his own defense. That was the answer.
I do remember that now. I remember that word, but I remember this game and that post game very well because They weren't as mad as you thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had John came out just same when you guys came out. But I took John to Rayo's Hollywood, and I took you guys to Rayo's Hollywood the different day. But I sat him down and I did a joke. I said, I want to teach you the word microcosm, what it means, and why you misused it. Like I'm doing this joke. So during the Pelicans game, the second half, he just texts me microcosm.
Well, now I know that I'm definitely going to bring it up in post-game press conferences from now on, just so I get you to text me back about, hey.
I have to tell you on a side note, this was announced. Today's Monday. This was announced last Thursday. If you're sitting down, Rayo's Hollywood is closing. Last meal is February 28th.
No. Oh my goodness, Craig, I'm so sorry.
It is. It's one of my favorite spots. It's very convenient. It's very easy parking. It's great. I love it. Great vibe. Yeah. It's part of the Rayo's from New York, the famous one restaurant. Yeah. Same owners. Pasta sauce. Side note, they sold the pasta to Campbell's Soup Company, but they don't. The Campbell's Soup has nothing to do with these the restaurants. There's another one I think in Vegas. But here's the problem. Even when I was going there a few years ago, they said the landlord might sell the building. We got to find a new space. He is, in fact, now selling the building. They can't find a new space, but I don't know how much they want to. They said the LA restaurant scene is too difficult now, especially after the Palisades fire. So that was a kick in the gut.
No kidding. My goodness. And had such a good time there with you last year. And I see you posting on Instagram all the time. And
Johnny roast beef.
Yeah.
So that's part of life. The restaurant business is tough. It's very tough. And there are other ones that have come and gone. And it's never easy. And I'm telling you, I have this running thing with Princess Cherry where I say, I'm so glad I'm not in the restaurant business. And I've said that for the last 25 years. I go to these other places and I know the people. I say, how is it? He goes, it's a little slow. It's a little slow. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a really tough business, and you never know what the factors are that are going to knock it out of whack. It seems so unpredictable that you can't really get a feel for how it's going to be 2 to 3, 4 years down the road.
Well, we don't want to end this podcast on a negative note. Cheers to Sam Darnold, former Viking quarterback who won the Super Bowl.
That's right. Former San Francisco 49er. I'm a Niners fan. Former 49er. Glad that, the 49ers and, the Vikings also that they could rejuvenate his career so that he could go to our division rival and win a championship. Fantastic.
How old were you in the 80s when the Niners were the best team in football?
Very young. I was born in 86. So my Niners fandom caught on in the early 90s with Steve Young and Jerry Rice. And I was old enough to remember watching and cheering for their 94 Super Bowl, which was the last one they have won. And they have not won one in the 32 years since.
And they're good too. I like Kyle Shanahan. Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate you, Craig, as always. Thank you so much.
That's our show, Wolves Pride. We'll see you next time. And remember, young people, I'm proud of you.
It's also so tight.